David and Ada had been married for almost 4 years, but their marriage took a painful turn 6 months ago. David started meeting up with his ex-girlfriend, and Ada found out in the worst way possible by checking his phone. Her heart sank when she saw the messages. He had been cheating. It was devastating, especially because she had always made it clear that infidelity was her deal-breaker. She had once left a man she deeply loved because he cheated, and now here she was, facing the same betrayal again. But Ada wasn't the kind of woman who liked to argue or confront people. She didn't have the strength to fight a cheating husband, so she did nothing. She bottled up her pain, focused on her business, her daughter Princess, and tried to live as if nothing was wrong. But inside, she was breaking. She couldn't stop wondering what she had done to deserve such treatment. Her mind replayed every moment, searching for where things went wrong. Their marriage had been blessed with a beautiful 3-year-old daughter, a little princess who brought so much joy into their lives. They also had a dog, Jack, a loyal companion who had become part of their family. Jack hadn't always been theirs. He was just a helpless little pup, barely 3 months old, wandering the neighborhood with no home. One evening, as Ada and David were driving home, they almost hit him. Instead of leaving him there, they took him to a hospital, nursed him back to health, and from that day on, he became part of their lives. Now, whenever David left for work, Ada would sit alone in the house, her heart breaking a little more each day. She would cry, not knowing what to do about her marriage, about David, about everything. And every time Jack would sit beside her as if he understood. He would nuzzle against her, touching her tears with his little paws, offering her silent comfort in a way only he could. One day, overwhelmed with emotions, Ada decided to visit her mother-in-law, hoping to talk to her about everything that was happening. She wanted guidance, some kind of support. But when she arrived at her mother-in-law's house, she was met with a shocking sight. The same woman David had been cheating with was there, and she was pregnant. The woman looked like she had moved in. Ada was frozen in place, unable to believe what she was seeing. Her mother-in-law, obviously caught off guard, asked her if David knew she was coming. Ada simply replied that she had just come to say hello and had brought some things for her. She spoke calmly, but her voice was shaky. It turned out that David's mother knew about the affair. She had even invited the pregnant woman to stay with her so she could take care of her and the baby. But no one had expected Ada to show up that day. Later that evening, David came home unusually early. It was strange because for months he had been returning home at odd hours. Sometimes he didn't come home at all. Ada immediately knew that his mother must have called him. David was acting awkward. He didn't know that Ada had already put the pieces together. He started asking her questions. Why she had gone to visit his mother, if anything was wrong, if she had something to tell him. He was trying to gauge what she knew. But Ada played it cool. She didn't cry or show any emotions in front of him, even though she had spent hours crying in private. She simply told him that she had gone to check on his mother and had taken her some Chinese tea. Then she asked if there was a problem with her visiting. David smiled, but she could tell he was uneasy. He said he was just surprised that she went without telling him. Ada ignored his comment and went to bed. That night, she woke up in the middle of the night to pray, but all she could do was cry. She was shattered, confused, and heartbroken, but she didn't want to show her weakness. She had made that mistake in past relationships, and she refused to repeat it. The next morning, she wiped her tears and went about her day as if nothing had happened. But every time she was alone at work, she broke down. She cried so much, but no one knew. A week later, on a Friday, David told her they would be receiving guests on Sunday and that she should prepare for their visit. Ada had a terrible feeling. Something told her that these guests were coming to introduce the pregnant woman to her formally. She didn't want to tell her mother. She knew she would be heartbroken. Instead, she decided to handle it alone. The only thing she did was call her mother that morning and ask her to pray for her. She had no idea what was coming next, but deep down, she knew it wouldn't be good. Ada had prepared herself for this moment. That Sunday, she went about her chores, cooking and cleaning, trying to keep herself busy so she wouldn't overthink. But deep down, she knew exactly what was about to happen. At noon, they arrived, just as she had expected. David's mother, his sister, his uncle, and the woman walked in together. The moment she saw them, her heart started racing, and her stomach turned. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she fought them back with everything in her. Still, she managed to put on a smile, though it took every ounce of strength in her. She welcomed them, pretending to be as calm as possible, even when she had no idea how to act. She kept her composure, sitting down with them as if nothing was wrong. They asked for her attention, but she insisted they eat first. Inside, she was praying for the ground to swallow her whole. She sat there, still smiling, waiting for what she knew was coming. Then, her mother-in-law broke the silence. She told Ada that David had wronged her and assured her that she had scolded him for his actions. But then, without hesitation, she introduced the other woman to Ada. At that moment, Ada felt something shift inside her. She would forever be grateful for the strength that held her together. She didn't break. She simply looked at the woman and said, "Oh, how are you? I think I've met you at my mother-in-law's place before." Before the woman could respond, David's mother quickly cut in, saying that the woman had only come to say hello that day, acting as if she had never met her before. Ada nodded and said, "I understand perfectly, it's fine." David, who had been standing there the whole time, didn't move. He just stared at her. As Ada set the table, she could feel the tension in the room. His family was quiet, exchanging glances with one another. They were cold, distant, but in her mind, she had already made her decision. This marriage was over. But not before he felt exactly what she felt. When it was time to eat, his family barely touched their food. It was clear they were uncomfortable. Still, Ada kept smiling at them as if nothing had happened. After eating a little, they left. Minutes later, David walked in. His face was tense. He stood in front of her and asked, "Do you even love me at all? How can you be this calm after everything you just heard?" Ada looked at him and simply said, "Figure that out." David was frustrated. He couldn't understand how she wasn't reacting. He called his best friend over and reported her, saying she was acting too indifferent, too cold. Right there, in front of David, Ada told his best friend that she had known about the affair long before today. The friend was shocked. "Wait, you already knew before meeting her at your mother-in-law's house?" he asked. "Yes," Ada replied. That was the moment David snapped. He jumped up, screaming, accusing her of being a pretender. He said she was a monster, that she could kill him in his sleep because she had been aware of his betrayal all this time and never said a word. He was furious, demanding to know how she could share a bed with him, wake up beside him, knowing he had impregnated another woman, and still say nothing. Still, Ada didn't respond. She just turned and walked away. The next morning, something happened that made Ada's heart sink even deeper. Gift, David's pregnant girlfriend, moved into the house. She carried a small bag and walked in like she belonged there. Ada saw her, but she didn't say a word. Not a single word. She just smiled, nodded, and continued with her day as if nothing had changed. But inside, her heart was breaking into a million tiny pieces. Days passed, and Ada tried to stay strong. She cooked, cleaned, and took care of her little daughter as if everything was normal. But at night, when the house was quiet, she would sit on the bed and stare at the ceiling, wondering how her life had come to this. Every night she told herself she would leave, that she deserved better, but every morning she woke up and stayed. One evening she couldn't take it anymore. She needed to talk to someone who would listen, who would understand. So, without telling anyone, she packed a small bag and went to her mother's house. When her mother opened the door and saw the look on her daughter's face, she knew something was wrong. Ada stepped inside, sat down, and before she could even say a word, the tears started pouring down. "Mama, I can't do this anymore," Ada sobbed. "I want to leave, but what about my daughter? I don't want her to grow up without her father." Her mother sighed deeply and held her hands. "Being a single mother is hard, my child, especially here in Africa, where women are not protected. I have been there, and I would never wish it for you." Ada wiped her tears, listening carefully. Her mother continued, "Since your husband isn't married to her, and his family has said she will leave after giving birth, forgive him and wait. This is your home." Ada's heart felt heavy. She wanted to scream, to shout, to tell her mother that this wasn't fair. But she couldn't. She just sat there, nodding slowly. After a while, she sighed and made a decision. She would stay. That night, she returned home. As soon as she walked in, the air in the house felt heavy. Gift was sitting in the living room, watching TV like she was the madam of the house. David was in the kitchen, humming a song as he made tea. Ada stood there for a moment, taking it all in, then she took a deep breath and called them both. "David, Gift, we need to talk." They both turned to look at her, surprised. She had never called for a meeting before. When they sat down, Ada looked straight into their eyes. "I have decided that we will all live in peace until Gift gives birth and moves out. No fights, no arguments, just peace." David's eyes widened. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He stood up, walked to Ada, and for the first time in years, he knelt before her. "Thank you, Ada," he said, his voice shaking. "I am so sorry for everything. I never wanted to hurt you." Gift also lowered her head. "I'm sorry too," she whispered. Ada took a deep breath and nodded. "I forgive you." From that day on, the house became quiet. There were no fights, no harsh words, but one thing remained the same. Jack, Ada's dog, hated Gift. Every time Gift tried to come near him, Jack would growl and bark furiously, his eyes sharp and full of warning. If she tried to pet him, he would snap his teeth, making her jump back in fear. It was as if Jack could see something no one else could. Gift hated the dog. "Why is this dog acting like this?" she complained one evening, standing far away from him. Ada watched silently. She didn't say anything. For 3 whole months, Ada and Gift lived like sisters. They cooked together, cleaned together, and even laughed together. To anyone watching, they looked like 2 women who had found peace. But deep down, Ada knew something wasn't right. She couldn't explain it, but there was something about Gift that made her uneasy. Sometimes she would catch Gift staring at her with an expression she couldn't understand. And Jack, their dog, never liked her. No matter how hard Gift tried to be friendly, Jack would growl and snap his teeth whenever she came close. But Ada ignored all of it. She had already made her decision to stay peaceful until Gift gave birth. Then, one fateful morning, Ada had just returned from dropping Princess off at school when Gift greeted her with a big smile. "Ada, I made fresh bread today. It's delicious. Let's eat together." Ada smiled back. "Really? That sounds great." They sat at the dining table, just the 2 of them and Jack lying on the floor nearby. Gift sliced the bread and placed a piece on Ada's plate. She took a bite, nodding in approval. This is really good," Ada said, taking another bite. Gift chuckled. "I knew you'd like it." They ate slowly, chatting like friends. But then something strange happened. Ada's smile faded. Her breathing became heavy. Her stomach twisted in sharp pain. She dropped her fork. "Gift, I don't feel—" Before she could finish, a loud scream escaped her lips. She clutched her stomach, her whole body shaking. Her vision blurred and the room started spinning. Jack jumped up, barking wildly, running in circles around her. Ada gasped, trying to hold onto the table, but her legs gave out. She crashed to the floor, writhing in pain. Gift didn't move. She just watched. Ada's breathing slowed. Her body trembled one last time. Then, silence. Jack let out a long, painful howl. Gift knelt beside Ada's lifeless body and placed 2 fingers on her neck. No pulse, no movement. Just cold, lifeless stillness. She stood up, took a deep breath, and looked around. The house was quiet. No one was there. She had to act fast. Without a single tear, Gift grabbed Ada by the arms and dragged her body across the floor. The weight was heavy, but she didn't stop. The compound was big, and at the far end of the backyard there was a garden, overgrown with weeds, untouched for months. That's where she took her. Using her bare hands and a small shovel, she dug a shallow grave. The soil was hard, but she didn't stop. She dug and dug until it was deep enough. Then, without hesitation, she rolled Ada's body inside and covered her with dirt. She stood up, breathing heavily, and looked at her work. The ground was uneven, but no one would notice. Jack, standing a few feet away, barked and barked, his cries loud and desperate. "Shut up!" Gift snapped. But Jack wouldn't stop. He knew something was wrong. Ignoring him, Gift rushed back into the house. She took a piece of paper and a pen and started writing. "I have left the country. Please don't look for me. I am done with this marriage." She placed the note on the bed, right in the middle of their matrimonial bed. Then she hurriedly packed all of Ada's clothes, shoes, bags, everything that belonged to her. She carried them to her car, drove to a lonely road, and threw them all away. By the time she returned home, she was calm. She looked around the house, making sure everything seemed normal. Then she picked up her phone and called David. "Hey, I'm going to visit my mom today," she said sweetly. "I'll be back soon." David didn't think much of it. All right. Later that evening, David got a call from Princess's school. "Mr. David, your wife hasn't come to pick up your daughter. Is everything all right?" David frowned. That was strange. Ada never forgot to pick Princess up. He tried calling her, but her phone was off. Worried, he rushed to the school, picked up Princess, and drove home. When he walked into the house, the silence felt strange. "Ada?" he called. No answer. He checked the bedroom. Empty. The bathroom. Empty. The kitchen. Empty. Then his eyes landed on the bed. There, in the center of the mattress, was a piece of paper. David picked it up, his hands shaking. He read the words again and again, his heart pounding in his chest. "I have left the country. Please don't look for me. I am done with this marriage." His eyes darted around the room. Something wasn't right. All of Ada's things were gone. Every dress, every shoe, every single thing that belonged to her had disappeared. David's mind raced. Why would she leave like this? Why would she abandon Princess? He called his family. They all read the note and shrugged. "She has obviously had other plans all along," his mother said coldly. "That's why she never reacted to anything. Just let her go." One by one, his family members told him to move on, but Ada's mother refused to believe it. "No," she said firmly, shaking her head. "My daughter would never leave her child. Something is wrong." She searched. She asked questions. She called everyone Ada knew, but no one had answers. Ada was gone, and only one soul knew the truth: Jack. Every single day, Jack would run to the backyard and sit in the same spot, the exact place where Ada was buried. He would whimper, cry, and dig at the dirt with his paws, as if trying to wake her up. Princess noticed. She didn't understand why Jack always ran to the garden, but whenever she found him there, she would sit beside him. "Jack, why do you always come here?" she would ask, stroking his fur. But Jack would only let out a sad whimper, his big brown eyes staring at the ground. Time passed. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. 3 months later, Gift gave birth to twin girls. But something terrible happened. Both babies died immediately after birth. The hospital room was filled with silence. Gift lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her face pale. David stood by the window, his heart heavy. He had lost his children before even holding them. It was a sad, dark day. That evening, after leaving the hospital, David went to pick up Princess from school. He was exhausted. His heart felt empty. He just wanted to go home and rest. When they got home, David forced a small smile at Princess. "Are you hungry?" She nodded. "Okay, I'll make something for you," he said, walking into the kitchen. Princess sat in the living room, playing with her doll. But after a while, she noticed something. Jack wasn't in the house. She looked under the table, behind the chairs, even in the hallway. "Jack!" she called out. No answer. She thought for a moment. The garden. She ran to the backyard, and just as she guessed, Jack was sitting in the same spot, staring at the ground. Princess sighed and sat next to him. "You really like this place, huh?" David, still in the kitchen, finished making food. "Princess, food is ready!" He wiped his hands and walked to the living room. No Princess. He checked her room. Not there. His heart started to race. "Princess?" Still no answer. His eyes darted toward the backyard, the garden. David walked out and stopped in his tracks. There she was, sitting beside Jack, his brows furrowed. Why was she there? He stepped closer. That's when he noticed something strange. The ground looked different, like it had been dug up before. A strange feeling crept into his chest. Something didn't feel right. His hands shook as he rushed inside the house, grabbed a shovel, and ran back to the garden. Princess looked up. "Daddy, what are you doing?" David didn't answer. He took a deep breath and pushed the shovel into the soil. The dirt was loose. Too loose. With each dig, his heart pounded faster. His breathing became heavy. Then, something terrifying happened. As he dug deeper, something appeared. A foot, a human foot. David froze. His blood turned cold. His hands went numb. Then suddenly, a scream ripped through his throat. "No!" Princess jumped in fear. Jack barked loudly, running in circles. David dropped the shovel and stumbled backward, his body shaking. Minutes later, the police arrived. They dug deeper, carefully pulling Ada's body out. She was still wearing the same clothes she had on the last day she was seen. David collapsed to the ground, crying uncontrollably. His Ada, his wife, the mother of his child, gone. The police started their investigation. They questioned everyone. Then they turned to Gift. At first, she denied everything. "I don't know what happened to her," she said, forcing tears. "Maybe she ran away and someone else did this." But the police weren't convinced. They searched her phone, her messages, her movements. Then, they found the truth. Gift had poisoned Ada. She had buried her. And she had lied about everything. The moment she was caught, she broke down. She confessed. "I just wanted David to myself," she sobbed. "Ada was in the way." The whole family was in shock. Ada's mother wept for days. David couldn't look at Gift. The woman he had once trusted had murdered his wife. Months later, the court gave its final judgment. Gift was sentenced to life in prison. David and Princess stood outside the courtroom holding hands. Princess looked up at her father. "Is Mommy coming back?" she asked in a soft voice. David's eyes filled with tears. He knelt and held her tight. "No, my love," he whispered, "but she will always be with us." Jack sat beside them, his eyes fixed on the sky as if he too was looking for Ada.